Perfect.
All right, everybody, man, how y'all doing today? Welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk, the show we cover the SWAC inside and out. I'm your tour guide around the SWAC. See what else coming at you, and we gonna recap Week 1 action, man. Week 1 of the season is almost in the books. We still got one game taking place today. Jackson State and FAMU and Orange Blossom Classic. We'll cover that game tomorrow. But everybody else played the game, and a lot of good games, a lot of weird action, and we're going to cover it all. So we're going to start with Thursday night's game. Pine Bluff took a trip up to Tulsa, Oklahoma to take on the Golden Hurricane. Pine Bluff came out and scored the first points of the game on a 1-yard Michael Jamerson run to lead 7-0 with with 12:27 left in the first quarter. This game had like 4 turnovers in the first 5 or 6 minutes of the game, but Pine Bluff would not score again. They held Tulsa scoreless till the 10:21 mark in the second quarter when Cardell Williams ran a 3-yard touchdown run, tying the score up at 7. And then Tulsa would score 28 unanswered points in the second quarter. Touchdowns from Cardell Williams to Marquise Shoulders for 80 yards. Malachi Jones caught a 15-yard pass from Williams. And then Shoulders caught a 19-yard pass from Williams to make the score 28-7 at the half. Third quarter, Jordan Ford would get a 1-yard run for Tulsa, capping off an 88-yard drive that took 3:23 off the clock. Extra point was good. Tulsa led 35-7. And then Bane Tryon caught a 7-yard pass from Roman Fuller in the fourth quarter with 3:07 left in the game. Extra point was good. That was a 9-play, 81-yard drive, taking full 16 off the clock, making the final margin 42-7. Pine Bluff registered 18 first downs on the night, Tulsa 26. Pine Bluff ran for 102 yards on 43 carries, 2.4 yards per rush, and 1 touchdown. Tulsa 260 on the ground, 49 carries, 5.3 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Pine Bluff threw for 150 yards. They were 15 of 26. No touchdowns, 1 interception. Tulsa, 257 yards through the air, 16 of 20, 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. 252 yards for Pine Bluff on the night on 69 plays, 3.7 yards per play. They had the one turnover. They had 4 penalties for 37 yards. Tulsa, 517 yards on the night, 69 plays, 7.5 yards per play. They fumbled twice and lost 1. They also had 4 penalties for 44 yards. Pine Bluff averaged 34.5 yards per punt. Tulsa 45 yards per punt. 33 minutes and 5 seconds time of possession for Pine Bluff to 26:55 for Tulsa. Pine Bluff was 5 of 16 on third down, 0 for 1 on fourth down. They were 1 for 1 in the red zone. They had 2 sacks, and they made their only extra point. Did not attempt a field goal. Tulsa 5 of 9 on third down, didn't attempt a fourth down. They were 5 of 5 in the red zone, 4 sacks on the night, and they were 6 of 6 on extra points, and they also didn't attempt a field goal. Individually, Makai Higgins led Pine Bluff, going 10 for 21 passing for 109 yards. No touchdowns, 1 interception. He was sacked 3 times. He did have some nice plays in the game, but ultimately Tulsa was able to get a lot of pressure on him and make him uncomfortable. Jalen Macon came in and went 5 for 5 for 41 yards. He was sacked once. Cardell Williams, 13 of 14 for Tulsa for 233 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was sacked twice. Roman Fuller, 2 for 2 for 15 yards and a touchdown. Braylon Braxton was 1 for 4 with 9 yards, 2 interceptions on the night, and he was sacked. He wasn't sacked. Jonas Davis led Pine Bluff with 82 yards on 17 carries, averaged 4.8 yards per carry. Jordan Ford led Tulsa with 110 yards on 19 carries, averaged 5.8 yards per carry and 1 touchdown. Kenji Lewis led Pine Bluff with 5 catches for 64 yards. Marquise Shoulders led Tulsa with 5 catches for 132 yards. Rico Dozier and Timon Akins and Caleb Knox led Pine Bluff with 7 tackles. Akins led the Golden Lions and with tackles for loss of 1.5, along with Lukeman. And Lukeman had 1.5 sacks for Pine Bluff. Boyd and Rogers had forced fumbles. Fumble recovery by Anthony, and interception went to Kyrie Williams and Laprel Boyd. Looking at the Tulsa side of things, they were led in tackles by Kopinski and Ray with 10 each. Tackles for loss, Ostrowski had 3, and Kopinski had 2 sacks. Interception was by Cannon Williams. So Pine Bluff, like I said, they came out and made some things happen early, got a quick turnover, and was able to cash it in. Defensively, I thought they played pretty well. They were able to not necessarily move the ball a lot consistently, but they were able to hit a big play here and there to kind of keep Tulsa on edge. But defensively, they were able to cause some problems. But ultimately, when Tulsa made a quarterback change, their passing attack opened up, and that gave Pine Bluff a lot of problems. And from now on, Tulsa just was able to have their way. Moving on to Saturday's games, I don't have a box score anywhere for the Valley game, but they lost to Central State on Saturday. So that was a tough loss there. They dropped that game by a score of 24-21 on a late field goal. I do know that much. Hopefully we can get a box score on that game just to kind of get an idea of what's going on. Next game we have Grambling and Hampton took place in New Jersey. Hampton won this game by a score of 35-31. Grambling scored first in this game on a Joshua Quiet 9-yard pass. They went for 2, didn't get it, so they led 6-0 at that point with 9:23 left in the first quarter. Darian Butts would get Hampton on the board and almost immediately with 7:30 left in the first quarter when he ran a 40-yard touchdown run, extra point good. Hampton led 7-6. Tanner Rinker got a 31-yard field goal for Grambling, capping a 40-yard drive that took 11 plays and 5:18 off the clock. Grambling led 9-7. TK Passant caught a 41-yard pass from Christopher Zealous. Extra point good, 5 plays, 74 yards, 1 minute, 29-second time possession. Hampton led 14-9. That score came with 10:09 left in the second quarter. Evan King caught a 16-yard pass from Zealous with 6:22 left in the second quarter. Extra point good. Hampton led 21-9. Floyd Chalk would get Grambling on the board in the start of the second half with a 1-yard touchdown run. This time the 2-point conversion was good. Grambling cut the lead to 4, 21-17. Christopher Zealous would run a 22-yard touchdown to put Hampton back up by double digits, 28-17 after the extra point. That came with 7:59 left in the third. With 13:26 left in the fourth quarter, Lyndon Rash caught a 36-yard pass from Miles Crawley. They went for 2 and got it, 28-25 at that point. With 3:08 left in the game, Zealous, another touchdown run for Hampton, this time from 11 yards out, extra point good. That capped a 10-play, 63-yard drive that took 5:46 off the clock. Hampton led 35-25. And then Chance Williams would get the final score of the game for Grambling with a 3-yard run with 57 seconds left in the game, capping a 92-yard drive that took 2:03 off the clock, making the final margin 35-31. Grambling would register 19 first downs on the night. Hampton 26. Grambling ran for 100 yards on 29 carries, 3.4 yards per carry with 2 touchdowns. Hampton ran for 279 yards on the ground, 47 carries, 5.9 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. Grambling threw for 311 yards, 25 of 38, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Hampton, 155 yards through the air, 14 of 21, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. 411 total yards for Grambling on 67 plays, 6.1 yard per play. They didn't fumble. So no turnovers for Grambling in this game. 9 penalties for 85 yards. Hampton 438 yards on 68 plays, 6.4 yards per play. They fumbled once, didn't lose it, and they had 10 penalties for 86 yards. So this was a highly penalized game. 19 penalties for over 160 yards between the two teams. Grambling averaged 41.8 yards per punt. Hampton 41.2. Grambling 27-15 time of possession. Hampton 32-45. Grambling was 7 of 13 on third downs. They didn't go for it on fourth down. They were 4 for 4 in the red zone. They were 2 of 11 on. They had 2 sacks for a loss of 11 yards. They missed their only extra point, and they were 1 for 1 on field goals. 32-45, like I said, time of possession for Hampton. 6 of 13 on third downs. 1 for 1 on fourth downs. They were 2 for 2 in the red zone, and they had 1 sack. They were 5 for 5 on extra points and did not attempt a field goal. Miles Crawley had a really nice game in his first game at Grambling, going 25 of 38 for 311 yards with 2 touchdowns. He was sacked once. Christopher Zealous, 14 of 21 for Hampton, 155 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 2 sacks. Chance Williams led Grambling with 7 carries for 49 yards and a touchdown. Floyd Chalk also had 13 carries for 31 yards and a touchdown. Christopher Zealous went for 114 yards at the quarterback position on 15 carries. He had 2 touchdowns. Darren Butts also went for 100 yards, 103 yards on 14 carries. He also had 1 touchdown. They both averaged over 7 yards per carry. Lyndon Rash led Grambling with 8 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown. TK Passant, 2 catches, 47 yards, and 1 touchdown. Javon Carter, Lewis Matthews, and Kevin Thomas led Grambling with 8 tackles. Johnson had 1.5 tackle for loss and also had 1.5 sack to lead the team. Forced fumble was by Marshall. Interceptions went to Singletary and Anderson. Hampton was led by Townsell with 12 tackles. Tackle for loss. Studefin led them with 1 tackle for loss. And Nance and Ross each had a half a sack. And like I said, Hampton, they obviously had a really strong running attack in this game. Grambling was really unable to get the running game going the way they wanted to, but they were able to pass the ball really well. Miles Crawley, like I said, solid outing, for his first game. That first drive they had, he was really, really sharp. But, they were ultimately unable to keep the lead. They got the lead once, and then they lost it. Then they got it back, then they lost it. Hampton was able to build a lead and basically just hold them off. But this was a nice effort for Grambling. I thought they showed a lot of fight in the second half. But, you cannot allow a team to run the ball like Hampton did in that game. So still a lot of things to work on. But, it was a solid effort for Grambling. Would have loved to see them win that game. But they couldn't get it done there. Next game we have is the opposite of this game, of the previous game. This game had very few points scored. This was, I don't know if I want to call this a defensive battle or a bad offensive battle, but Southern and Alabama State played. Southern lost this game 14-10. Southern scored first. Kendrick Grimes caught a 16-yard pass from Harold Blood, extra point good. They kept a 14-play, 77-yard drive. It took 5:44 off the clock. Southern led 7-0. Alabama State answered with their own nice drive, 8 plays, 75 yards. Also 5 minutes off the clock. Keyshawn Johnson, 43-yard pass from Demetrius Davis, extra point good, 7-7. 14:01 in the second quarter. Joshua Griffin kicked a 40-yard field goal for Southern. That capped a 10-play, 57-yard drive. Took 5:02 off the clock. That made the halftime score 10-7. And then from then on, man, there was not much offense. Southern could not move the ball. Southern would get a lot of opportunities in the red zone. They would get a lot of opportunities to get the ball and move it, but they couldn't. Alabama State would get multiple opportunities on the plus side of the field and ultimately came away with 1 touchdown. And that was a 17-yard pass from Davis to Johnson with 5:36 left in the third. Extra point good, 14-10. And from then on, both teams just traded the ball back and forth, and nothing came out of it. Ultimately, Alabama State was able to get the win. Southern 15 first downs, Alabama State 13. Southern 69 yards on the ground, 2.6 yards per carry on 27 carries. Alabama State 86 yards on 37 carries, 2.3 yards per carry. 166 yards passing for Southern, 17 of 35, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Alabama State, 180 yards, 15 of 21, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Southern, 235 yards on 62 plays, 3.8 yards per play. They fumbled twice, lost them both. Had 6 penalties for 50 yards. Alabama State, 266 yards of offense, 58 plays, 4.6 yards per play, no fumbles, 4 penalties for 20 yards. Southern averaged 35.7 yards per punt. Alabama State 35.2. So as you can see, almost all the numbers in this game, other than the final score and the turnovers, really were pretty even. These two teams were basically the same. So they basically just played a mirror image type of game. 28:07 time of possession for Southern, 29:04 for Alabama State. Southern 4 of 14 on third down, 4 of 5 on fourth downs, 2 for 2 in the red zone, 4 sacks on the night, 1 for 1 on extra points, 1 for 1 on field goals. Alabama State 29:04 time of possession, 5 of 13 on third down. So see again, pretty even. 0 for 2 on fourth down, 1 for 1 in the red zone, 2 sacks for them. They were 2 for 2 on field goals, extra points, and they missed both their field goals, which could have extended their lead. They missed 2 field goals, 1 in the first half, 1 in the second half. That really could have helped them build their lead, but they were unable to cash them in. Harold Blood, 7 of 34 for Southern, 166 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 2 sacks. Demetrius Davis, 15 of 21 for Alabama State, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 4 sacks. Garrett Quarles, 8 carries, 30 yards for Southern. Juwan Hall, 15 carries, 36 yards for Alabama State. Again, the run game was not there for either team. Jalen Howard led Southern with 3 catches for 42 yards. Keyshawn Johnson, 9 for 107 and 2 touchdowns. He was the offense for both teams, honestly. Jalen Campbell had 15 tackles for Southern. Kelby Gibbons, 2.5 tackles for loss. Davis, Brown, Gibbons each led the team with 1 sack apiece. Defensively for Alabama State, Bubba Adams, 12 tackles. Tackles for loss, Cunningham and Thomas with 2. Sacks went to Thomas and Bubba Adams. Forced fumble went to Thomas. Recoveries by Daniels and Young Roll. Interceptions went to Mikey Victor and Nazareth Bryant. So a lot to clean up for both teams on the offensive side of the ball. But defensively, I thought both teams played really well. They were both put in tough spots, having to come back on the field multiple times and make some things happen. But they were able to do it. And this, like I said, I don't know if you want to call this a good defensive game or a bad offensive game, but it was one of those games where a lot of mistakes were made, a lot of big defensive plays. Defenses had to answer the call multiple times, and I salute both defenses. Alabama State's defense was really, really good in this game, and the offense was, they took advantage of a couple opportunities. Southern looked like they were gonna play a great game, and the offense petered out mainly because of Alabama State's defense. So both teams, move on to their next week game. The next game we have is Vandy and Alabama A&M. Vandy wins this game by a score of 47-13. The first quarter score was 5-3. So definitely an odd game right there. Alabama A&M scored first on a field goal from Barbosa from 21 yards out, capping a 20-play drive that took 71 yards and 8:55 off the clock. Really, really solid drive there. Vanderbilt would get a field goal as well with 1:32 left in the first quarter to make the score 3-3. Then they would get a safety late in the first quarter to make the score 5-3. Will Shepard would catch a 3-yard pass from A.J. Swan to give Vandy a 12-3 lead. Shepard would get a 17-yard pass from Swan to make the score 19-3. Terrell Gardner would catch a 62-yard pass from Xavier Langford. Extra point good. That came with 11:32 left in the third quarter. That made the score 19-10. And then from then on, Vandy kind of ripped off 4 straight touchdowns. Swan had a 1-yard run late in the third quarter, 26-10. Alexander, 17-yard run with 14:54 left in the game, 33-10. Alexander will get his second touchdown, this time from 9 yards out, to make the score 42-10. Johnson would get a 17-yard pass from Seals to make the score 47-10. And then with 2:32 left in the game, Barbosa would kick a 29-yard field goal for Alabama A&M to make the final margin 47-13. I think, like I said, the first quarter, I think Alabama A&M really played well. Like I said, they had a real long, time-consuming drive, but they just couldn't really make anything happen after that. They had 14 first downs, Vandy 24, 135 yards rushing for Alabama A&M on 33 carries, 4.1 yards per carry, 215 yards rushing for Vanderbilt, 34 carries, 6.8 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. 143 yards through the air for the Bulldogs, 18 of 34, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. 246 through the air for Vandy, 17 of 31, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. 278 yards for Alabama A&M, 67 plays, 4.1 yard per play, no fumbles, 9 penalties for 50 yards. The Commodores, 461 yards, 65 plays, 7.1 yard per play, no fumbles, 3 penalties for 20 yards. Vandy punted for 53-yard average, Alabama A&M 34.9. 32 minutes and 22 second time of possession, edge to the Bulldogs, 27-38 for the Commodores. 6 of 18 on third down for Alabama A&M, 1 of 1 on fourth down, 2 for 2 in the red zone, 1 sack for a loss of 2 yards, 1 for 1 on extra points, 2 for 2 on field goals. 9 of 14 on third down for Vandy, 0 for 1 on fourth down, 7 of 9 in the red zone. They had 2 sacks, and they were 6 of 6 on extra points and 1 for 1 on field goals. Langford led the Bulldogs going 11 of 22 for 105 yards and 1 touchdown, no interception, 1 sack. Brown 7 of 12 for 38 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, and 1 sack. Swan led Vandy going 15 of 29 for 194 yards with 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 1 sack. Isaiah Noquino led the Bulldogs with 1 carry for 39 yards. Langford had 9 for 31. Alexander led Vandy with 12 carries for 87 yards and 2 touchdowns. Gardner led the Bulldogs with 3 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown. McGowan led Vandy with 6 for 70. Dawson led the Bulldogs with 9 tackles. Mitchell and Pickett each had 1 tackle for loss. Mitchell had 1 sack. Interception went to Dawson. Vandy was led in tackles by Patterson with 7. Tackle for loss. Hugo Chukwu and Clifton and Patterson each had 1. Langston Patterson and Kane Patterson, they each had 1. Brown also had 1 tackle for loss. Hugo Chukwu and Clifton each had 1 sack apiece. No forced fumbles. Interception went to Clifton. Again, like I said, I thought Alabama A&M played a really solid first quarter. They really went out, really went hard trying to move the ball. They had a lengthy drive, but just ultimately couldn't make anything else happen after that. So they move on to their next matchup. But a solid effort early in this game. Southern Miss would beat Alcorn by a score of 40-14. Southern Miss would score the first touchdown. Caston caught a 16-yard pass from Wiles with 12:53 left in the first. 7-0. Frank Gore got a 9-yard run for Southern Miss. 14-0. Andrew Stein got a 25-yard field goal for Southern Miss. 17-0. Alcorn would get on the board when Tyler Macon ran a 75-yard run that came with 3:50 left in the first quarter. 17-7. Frank Gore will get his second touchdown of the game with 10:56 left in the second quarter. 24-7. Stein will get a 23-yard field goal for the Golden Eagles with 30 seconds left in the first half to make the score 27-7. That would be the halftime score. Stein will get a 52-yard field goal for USM to make the score 30-7. And then Henderson would catch a 3-yard pass from Wiles with 4:31 left in the third to make the score 37-7. And then Nico Duffy will run a 15-yard touchdown with 9:08 left in the game. Extra point good, Alcorn trail 37-14. And then Stein will kick a 41-yard field goal to make the final margin 40-14. Alcorn 8 first down, Southern Miss 25, 182 yards on the ground for Alcorn, 145 for Southern Miss. Alcorn 29 carries, 6.3 yards per carry. Southern Miss 38 carries, 3.8 yards per carry. Alcorn 2 touchdowns, Southern Miss 1. Alcorn was 5 of 14 through the air for 44 yards with 2 interceptions. Southern Miss not 24 of 31, 296 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Alcorn, 226 yards, 43 plays, 5.3 yards per play. No fumbles, 7 penalties for 77 yards, 441 yards for Southern Miss on 69 plays, 6.4 yards per play. They had 1 fumble but didn't lose it, and 5 penalties for 35 yards. Alcorn punted for 40.3 yard average. Southern Miss 42.3. Time of possession, Alcorn 21-43. Southern Miss 38-17. Alcorn 3 of 11 on third down. No fourth down attempts, 1 for 1 in the red zone. 4 sacks on the night, 2 for 2 on extra points, no field goals attempted. Southern Miss 5 of 14 on third down, 2 of 2 on fourth down, 8 of 9 in the red zone, 4 of 4 on extra points, and 4 of 4 on field goals. Like I said, that kicker was their MVP, kicking a 52-yarder and a 41-yarder. He was definitely the MVP. Aaron Allen, 5 of 9 for 44 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks. Tyler Macon, 0 for 5 with 2 interceptions. Billy Wiles, 21 of 28 for 267 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 2 sacks. Macon, 4 carries for Alcorn for 83 yards and a touchdown. Rodriguez Clark led Southern Miss with 9 carries for 54 yards. Malik Rogers had 1 catch for Alcorn for 26 yards to lead the team. Caston, 5 for 104 for Southern Miss and 1 touchdown. Ellis and Summerall led Alcorn with 11 tackles apiece. Russ, 1.5 tackles for loss to lead the team. He also had 1.5 sacks to lead the team. Forced fumble was by Ellis. Interception went to McDaniel. Southern Miss was led in tackles by Puckett, Rowland, and Sims. They each had 4 tackles apiece. Tackle for loss went to Puckett and Rowland. No sacks, no forced fumbles, interceptions. Stanley had 2 interceptions for Southern Miss to lead them. Alcorn, like I said, they really played a solid game. They tried to come out and play a solid game, but Southern Miss was able to take control of the game from the very onset. Alcorn did a good job of forcing them to kick a lot of field goals, but the Alcorn offense really couldn't get going in this game. When you complete 5 passes on the night and you only throw the ball 14 times, you really aren't going to get a lot going. Not a lot of opportunities to run plays in this game for Alcorn either, but this is an FBS game, so you take your lumps and you move on. So our next game is Bethune-Cookman and Memphis, another FBS game. Memphis will win this game by a score of 56-14. This game was 10-7 after 1, so Bethune-Cookman did make some things happen early. Memphis got a Blake Watson 2-yard run to open up the scoring. Extra point good, 7-0. Morgan will kick a 45-yard field goal for the Tigers, made the score 10-0. A. Marie Jones will get a 69-yard pick 6 for Bethune-Cookman, extra point good, 10-7. Watson, a 15-yard run for Memphis, 17-7. Morgan, 20-7 on a field goal with 9:13 left in the second. Watson will get a 2-yard run for Memphis with 6:26 left in the second quarter. Extra point, they went for 2 and got it, 28-7. That was the halftime score, 28-7. Sutton Smith will get a 4-yard run for Memphis for a touchdown, extra point good, 35-7. With 6:27 left in the third quarter, Blankensee caught a 47-yard pass from Hennigan. That made the score 42-7. Carter had a 7-yard pass from Hennigan with 3:23 left in the third. That made it score 49-7. Sutton Smith, a 3-yard run for Memphis with 12:37 left in the game. Extra point good, 56-7. And then Brown would recover a fumble and would do a 19-yard scoop and score for Bethune-Cookman to make the score 56-14. So Bethune-Cookman did not score an offensive touchdown in this game. They scored they scored on a pick 6 and a fumble recovery. So not a lot going on for the Wildcats on offense. They had 4 first downs on the night. Memphis 27. Bethune-Cookman ran for 52 yards on 24 carries, 2.2 yards per carry. Memphis 208 on the ground, 43 carries, 4.8 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns. 39 yards passing for Bethune-Cookman, 13 of 24, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Memphis 28 of 38 for 343 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Bethune-Cookman under 100 yards of total offense on the night, 91 yards of offense on 48 plays, 1.9 yards per play. They did fumble twice. They lost one. They had 7 penalties for 50 yards, 551 yards for Memphis on the night, 81 plays, 6.8 yards per play. They did fumble once and lost it, and they had 5 penalties for 55 yards. Bethune-Cookman punted 11 times. They punted 11 times for 429 yards, 39-yard average. Memphis punted twice for a 40.5-yard average. Time of possession, Bethune-Cookman 23 minutes, 17 seconds. They were 1 for 15 on third down, 0 for 1 on fourth down. Obviously, they didn't make it into the red zone. They had 1 sack on the night, and they had 2 for 2 on extra points, no field goals attempted. Memphis 35-12, time of possession, 4 for 12 on third down, 2 for 2 on fourth down. They were 8 for 8 in the red zone. They had 4 sacks. They were 6 for 6 on extra points and 2 for 2 on field goals. Just a really, really rough offensive outing for Bethune-Cookman in this one. The defense obviously did not help, although the defense did score 2 touchdowns. Luke Sprague was 3 for 6 for Bethune-Cookman for 21 yards, and no touchdown, no interceptions, 2 sacks. Walter Simmons, 10 of 18 for 18 yards. Jesus. I'm sorry, y'all. You completed 10 passes for 18 yards. That's just not good. 2 interceptions on the night. Hennigan, 27 of 36 for 334 for Memphis. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 1 sack. Jaden Bivens led Bethune-Cookman with 1 carry for 24 yards. And Sutton Smith had 18 carries for 115 yards for Memphis with 2 touchdowns. Blake Watson had 3 touchdowns on the night. Amari Stewart had 1 catch for 20 yards for Bethune-Cookman. Blankumsey had 6 catches for 98 yards and a touchdown for Memphis. Rock Taylor, 6 for 78. Thomas led Bethune-Cookman with 8 tackles. Tackles for loss, Jones, 1.5. LaFont, 1.5. Sack, Jones with 1 sack. Forced fumble, nobody. Fumble recovery by Brown for 19 yards. And Jones had an interception, pick 6. And Franklin had an interception. Looking at Memphis, defensively, they were led in tackles by Fox with 5. Fox also had 1.5 tackles for loss to lead the team, and 1 sack went to Coffey, Joyner, and Hamilton, and Fox. They each had 1 sack apiece. Fox and Edmondson had forced fumbles. Fox had a fumble recovery and no interception. So really, really rough offensive outing for Bethune-Cookman. You know, it was a really tough game for them to not be able to move the ball at all offensively. You got 2 scores from your defense, so, you know, you can put that in your cap, but just not a good outing for Bethune-Cookman offensively, as Memphis was able to completely shut them down. And they move on to their next game against Savannah State. So hopefully a better outing next week for Bethune-Cookman. And our final game of the night, which was probably was the game of the day, Texas Southern and Prairie View in the Labor Day Classic. Prairie View pulled out a 37-34 overtime victory. This game was a back-and-forth game. Prairie View jumped out to a lead. Texas Southern was able to take the lead and build a nice lead for themselves. And then Prairie View would come back and tie the game up and ultimately win in overtime. So Falkenberg got TSU on the board first with a 20-yard field goal, 3-0. That came with 7:20 left in the first, 4:37 left in the first. Bloomfield caught a 38-yard pass from Conley. Extra point good, 7-3. Murray would get a 2-yard run for Prairie View. Extra point good. That would make the score 14-3. That score came with 2:08 in the first. 13:43 left in the second quarter. Bennett caught a 9-yard pass from Body. Extra point good, 14-10. Villa Gomez would kick a 23-yard field goal for the Panthers with 8:44 left in the second to make the score 17-10. 5:18 left in the second quarter. Bennett caught a 35-yard pass from Body. Extra point good. Halftime score 17-17. Third quarter, Davis, 16-yard pass from Body. Extra point good, 24-17. 8:15 left in the third. Falkenberg will kick a 37-yard field goal, make the score 27-17. And then Owens will get a 77-yard touchdown run for Texas Southern with 4:35 left in the third quarter. That will make the score 34-17. Prairie View would score late in the third quarter when Caleb Johnson would get an 11-yard touchdown run, extra point good. That kept the 11-play, 89-yard drive. That made the score 34-24. With 9:17 left in the game, Villa Gomez kicked a 39-yard field goal for Prairie View to draw the Panthers to within 7, 34-27. And then Trejon Spiller would catch a 15-yard pass from Connolly with 49 seconds left in the game. Extra point good. That would tie the game up at 34. And then TSU would get the ball first in overtime. They would not score. And then Prairie View would kick a 35-yard field goal to win the game, 37-34. Prairie View, 27 first downs, TSU 20, 180 yards on the ground for Prairie View, 53 carries. They ran the hell out of the ball in this game, 3.4 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, 200 yards on the ground for Texas Southern, 28 carries, 7.1 yards per carry, and 1 touchdown. Passing 275 yards for Prairie View, 20 of 33, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 286 yards for Texas Southern, 18 of 38, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 455 yards of offense for the Panthers, 86 plays, 5.3 yards per play. They had 1 fumble and they lost it. They had 3 penalties for 41 yards, 486 yards of offense for the Tigers, 66 plays, 7.4 yards per play, 1 fumble and they lost it. 6 penalties for 58 yards. Prairie View 41-yard per punt average on 5 punts. Texas Southern 32.5 yard per punt on 2 punts. Time of possession, Prairie View 35-51, 9 of 20 on third down, 1 for 2 on fourth down. They were 5 of 5 in the red zone, no sacks, 4 of 4 on extra points, and 3 of 3 on field goals. Texas Southern 24-9, time of possession 4 of 11 on third down, no fourth down attempts, 4 of 5 in the red zone. They had 3 sacks. They were 4 of 4 on extra points and 2 of 4 on field goals. So you missed 2 field goals, you turned the ball over 3 times, and you were 4 of 11 on third down. That's pretty much gonna seal the deal for you. This was an interesting game because, like I always say, TSU ain't necessarily built. Prairie View is not necessarily built to come from behind in double digits in a game, especially late. But they were able to make a lot of things happen and find a way to convert and make things happen. So big win for the Panthers. They extend that streak to 9 games. Connolly 20 of 33 for 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was sacked 3 times. Andrew Body 18 of 38 for 286 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, no sacks. This was a nice quarterback battle, like a lot of people anticipated. Connolly definitely brought his end of the deal. He was the guy out of the 2 that most people were looking at to kind of see, what they would do at that position. But he was able to keep his team in the game and make some really big plays. Antoine led Prairie View with 18 carries for 89 yards. Johnson 13 for 67 and a touchdown. Owens 8 for 104 and 1 touchdown. Bloomfield had 2 catches for 76 yards for Prairie View and a touchdown. Spiller 4 for 58 and a touchdown. Davis led TSU with 7 catches for 120 yards and a touchdown. Bennett 3 for 72 and 2 touchdowns. Johnson led Prairie View with 14 tackles. Marshall and Coleman each had 1 tackle for loss, no sacks. Forced fumble was by Lewis. Recovery was by Guidry. Interceptions went to Farrow, Bird, and Pearson. Texas Southern was led in tackles by Bogarty with 13, Williams with 12, and Simmons with 10. So 3 guys with double-digit tackles. Williams 3.5 tackles for loss. Akins 2.5. Williams with 3 sacks on the night. Big game for him. He's up there with a couple other guys for potential defensive player of the week with those kind of numbers. Forced fumble went to Akins. Fumble recovery went to Javis Williams. And Williams also had the interception for Texas Southern. So like I said, this was a really nice back and forth affair as both teams kind of went at it. This was a game of runs. You had TSU, fall behind 14-3. You had them tie the game up at 17. You had them go up 34-17, and then you had Prairie View come back and tie the game up and ultimately win it in overtime. So not much more that you could ask for than that kind of game in a rivalry game. and a very important game because Prairie View now is 1-0 in the conference and 1-0 in the division. So they're sitting, they're sitting kind of pretty early. It's obviously very, very early. But they have, they have a slight lead right now. So, they can kind of see where everything else goes. Looking at the week 2 schedule, like I said, we still have one game left in this week, and that's the Orange Blossom Classic taking place today. Jackson State and Florida A&M. Week 2, Texas Southern is at Toledo. That's a 2:30 kick. Game is on ESPN Plus. Savannah State is at Bethune-Cookman. That's a 2 p.m. kick. That game is on the Cat Eye Network, which is Bethune-Cookman's YouTube channel. Miles is at Alabama State, 5 p.m. kick. Alcorn at Stephen F. Austin, 6 p.m. kick. Pine Bluff is at Tennessee State in the Southern Heritage Classic. That's 6 p.m. kickoff on HBCU Go. Florida A&M is at USF, University of South Florida. That's also a 5 p.m. kickoff Central Time. ESPN Plus broadcast. Jackson State and Southern hook up in Baton Rouge on a 6 p.m. kick. ESPN Plus broadcast there. Abilene Christian is at Prairie View in a 6 p.m. kick. And Lane is at Alabama A&M. That's a 6 p.m. kick in Huntsville. Grambling takes on LSU in Baton Rouge on a 6:30 kick, and that game is on the SEC Network. So a lot of out-of-conference games. The one game that we have with 2 conference opponents is a non-conference game. So this game is basically this week is basically non-conference week. So a lot of out-of-conference games. We'll be back next week to cover them all. Monday, we're going to have a recap of the Orange Blossom Classic. And then Tuesday, we'll have our HBCU Top 10 poll show along with our HBCU Top 10 Coaches Press Conference show on Tuesday. Wednesday, week 2 preview, SWAC Smoke live on Thursday. And then our week 2 recap on Sunday. Probably won't have a Saturday pregame show. I'll be at Southern at the game, so probably won't do anything on Saturday. Probably just save it for Sunday. So that's gonna do it for our show today. I'd like to thank y'all for tuning in and rocking with us. Y'all make sure y'all hit that subscribe button and that notification bell, and also like the video. Check out the socials. Facebook is SWAC Talk, Instagram SWAC Talk, Twitter SWAC Talk 76, and we are out, man. Y'all have a good day, and we'll catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.